We need a Lilo and Stitch remake.
Yeah, we can show the next generation why people love this movie and give them a message about family in a time when people need to hear it the most. Or how about we add characters nobody asked for, remove the ones they liked, make Stitch less scary, and completely change the moral of the story.
Now that's cinema! That's the best idea I've ever heard!
Ah yes, Disney. The company equivalent of that one kid who keeps copying his older brother's homework the night before it's due, with a bare minimum understanding of the topic because that's the secret formula now. You don't need to understand the original. You just need to turn it in with a familiar logo, a dash of nostalgia, and enough emotional piano to fake sincerity. Live-action remakes like this don't suck because they change things, they suck because they don't understand them. Instead of reimagining what made the originals powerful, they strip it down to recognizable lines, flatten the emotional highs and lows, and pad everything with soft lighting and safer stakes. You know how every remake these days feels like it was made by a studio trying to apologize for the original being too honest? Like someone in a boardroom looked at an old classic and went, "This made people feel things. Let's fix that." The recent remakes play out like a parody of Disney's own remake checklist, all following the same pattern. Remove the weird, remove the edge, replace anything remotely unsettling with 2-second emotional montages and a beach dance scene. Just look at the lineup. The Lion King 2019, Mulan 2020, Pinocchio 2022, Peter Pan and Wendy, The Little Mermaid 2023. Different titles, same problem. They look better, but feel worse. They all traded style for soul, sacrificing emotion, character, and charm for realism, marketability, and runtime efficiency. It's like Disney keeps thinking if it looks expensive, it must be good. But all we're left with are films that technically function and emotionally flatline. These aren't films, they're brand activations. Instead of honoring what made the originals iconic, they become nostalgia-themed screensavers, safe, soulless, and algorithm-approved. Well, Disney remakes have pulled in over $9.5 billion globally since 2010, even though most of them sit below 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not bad writing, that's strategy. Seriously, they do it on purpose. And if you want to know how, and more importantly, why, I'm going to tell you in a second. Lilo and Stitch, once the story of a lonely Hawaiian girl and a chaos-born alien weapon who taught her that family means never leaving each other behind, turned into the story of a mildly misunderstood girl and a soft-edged blue toddler who mostly fumbles around breaking furniture and knocking over props like he wandered off a preschool set. Stitch used to be a destructive force learning how to belong. Now he's just kind of messy. Less alien experiment gone rogue, more accident-prone Baby Yoda knockoff. We used to get emotional complexity, themes of grief and social services, child abandonment, cultural richness. Now, we get 90 minutes of mellow dialogue, soft filters, and characters that feel like they were created in a boardroom to replace the ones you actually cared about. Bubbles, gone. Gantu, who? But hey, at least we got a brand new friendly social worker whose main character trait is existing. And gluten-free muffins. And like I said before, this wasn't some accident, but a strategy. One that earned Disney a truckload of cash. Because a movie designed for 3-year-olds is a movie everyone can watch. It may not hit hard, it may not last in your memory, but it won't offend anyone, confuse anyone, or give anyone a reason to walk out. It's more profitable to make a movie 500 people might find okay, rather than a movie 100 million people find amazing. In Hollywood math, that's a win. The goal isn't impact, it's volume. A movie that sticks with 10% of viewers? Risky. A movie that offends no one and sells $1.2 billion in merch and licensing? Now you're speaking Disney. And the Lilo and Stitch remake, it fits perfectly into that trend. A movie that technically tells the same story, but hits with all the emotional weight of a group project presentation where only one person did the work. You recognize the shapes, the scenes, the beats, but the feeling, the raw, strange, beautiful ache of the original, that got left behind. Just like everything else these remakes don't know how to handle. Remember that moment in the original where Lilo says her sister disciplines her 5 times a day with a brick?
Sometimes 5 times a day. With bricks.
Bricks.
Yeah, they turned that into I eat too much. And instead of having Lilo go full WWE on that redheaded girl, they now have her gently shove a cartoon bully. Because nothing says real childhood pain like mild playground etiquette. And Cobra Bubbles, our intimidating ex-CIA wildcard social worker with gravitas and deep one-liners, gone. Replaced by a kindly counselor lady who probably brings gluten-free muffins to house visits. It's not just watered down, it's filtered, distilled, boiled, and sold as room temperature nostalgia. And it gets even clearer when you realize that, according to Statista, over 40% of animated family movie audiences are adults. These remakes aren't just for kids, they're also supposed to feed nostalgia-starved millennials. But instead of doubling down on the weird, bold heart of the original, they go with the safest, blandest version possible. What you end up with is something that technically looks like Lilo and Stitch, but feels more like a YouTube Kids adaptation. Stripped down, softened, and pre-chewed for mass consumption. And when you strip away everything weird, raw, and real, all you've got left is IP in a Halloween costume. Let's talk about our blue menace for a second. Stitch, in the original, a chaotic alien weapon of mass destruction who learns what it means to belong. Wild, dangerous, unpredictable, and lovable because of it. Stitch in the remake, a slightly mischievous plush toy with the emotional range of a Disney Plus loading screen. He doesn't regrow his limbs, he doesn't use his blasters, he doesn't start the film causing havoc. No one even sprays him with water anymore, probably because someone at Disney feared lawsuits about imitating behavior at home. There's no sense that he's a monster trying to be good. He's just kind of already good, but clumsy, like E.T. had a sugar crash. Here's the real issue. This film wasn't made for the people who actually showed up to see it. It's not for teens, not even for 10-year-olds. The new Lilo and Stitch is pitched straight at toddlers, ages 3 to 7. Bright colors, soft piano chords, no real threat, no consequences, just sugar-coated nostalgia on training wheels. It felt like their target audience dropped 10 years of age. Gone is the chaos, gone is the edge. No sharp jokes or emotional tension. Stitch isn't even scary anymore. He's just a misbehaving toddler with big eyes and soft punches. And now, let's address the spaceship-sized hole in the room. Where the hell is Gantu? One of the most iconic elements of the original, gone. No Gantu, no high-speed spaceship chases, no towering threat to balance Stitch's chaos. Removing Gantu is like remaking The Lion King without Scar. He's not optional, he's fundamental. But again, real villains are risky. They have weight, they need consequences. Easier to just leave them out and roll credits. And why? Because real villains are hard. They require screen time, motivation, a sense of threat, and consequences. Gantu had all of that. He was the force that made Stitch confront who he really was, a weapon or a family member. But that's risky. It's heavier. So instead, they played it safe, cut the conflict, softened the edges, and rolled credits. Because in the studio playbook, okay for everyone beats amazing for a few. A babified remake can be streamed by toddlers, tolerated by parents, background noise for teens, and nostalgia bait for adults all at once. It doesn't need to be loved, it just needs to be watchable by everyone, offensive to no one, and forgettable enough to rerun forever. And that's the formula. Sand it down, brighten it up, and sell the shell. Let's talk about that ending. The original Lilo and Stitch didn't just mention Ohana, it built its entire soul around it.
Ohana means family.
Nobody gets left behind.
In Hawaiian, Ohana means family, but not just in the nuclear sense. It's about extended bonds, blood-related or not, and the unwavering responsibility to care for and never abandon those you consider your own. This wasn't just a theme. That was the point. It built its entire soul around it. Now, in the remake, Nani gives up custody. Not out of neglect, not because she can't love Lilo, but because she wants to go to college. And the film treats it like some enlightened step forward, a noble sacrifice, an empowering choice. But here's the thing, the entire emotional arc of the 2002 film was about not doing that. Nani spends the whole movie fighting to keep Lilo, to prove she can raise her, protect her, love her, even when life makes that nearly impossible. It's messy, it's raw, it hurts. And that's why it worked, because the point was never that she had to be perfect, the point was that she stayed. She refused to give up, even when the system tried to pull them apart. That's what made the final scene so powerful. The broken pieces didn't scatter, they came together. They chose to fight for each other. The remake rewrites that by saying, it's okay, she'll just live with the neighbors. Hanai, you know? Except no one explains what Hanai is. It's used like a narrative band-aid, a cultural justification for a story decision that goes against the heart of the original. To a mainstream audience, it doesn't read as cultural nuance, it reads as Nani gave up. And for a film that built itself on never leaving your people behind, that's not just a plot change, that's a betrayal of purpose. It's like Finding Nemo, but having Marlin give up and adopt another fish halfway through. It's not just a different choice, it erases what made the first story matter. Disney didn't just sand down the weirdness, they cut the soul out of Ohana. The original Lilo and Stitch wasn't just quirky, it was unhinged in the best way possible. It was about a girl too angry to fit in and an alien too destructive to belong. It didn't sugarcoat childhood, it shoved you right into the mess of it. Lilo was feral, grieving, volatile. Stitch was dangerous, chaotic, and borderline uncontrollable. And the bond they formed? Fragile, loud, real. But the remake? It cleans all that up. It replaces bite with banter, grief with glances, and chaos with careful pacing. It brushes off every jagged edge until all that's left is a glossy echo of what once hit hard. And it's not because they couldn't do better, it's because they didn't want to. And here's why. On purpose. Because studios know exactly who's showing up to these remakes. Nostalgia-soaked millennials, now adults, craving something that feels like home. The problem at hand? They don't actually want to give you what you once loved. They just want you to recognize it long enough to buy a ticket. See, if they remade Lilo and Stitch exactly the way it was, weird, dark, emotionally jagged, it might connect more deeply, sure, but it would also risk alienating the most profitable chunk of the family audience. Parents who want something safe for their kids, and corporations who want licensing-friendly mascots. So they strip it all down. They remove Cobra Bubbles, declaw Stitch, give Lilo fewer edges and more catchphrases. And what's left is a marketable version of grief. Not real, just aesthetically sad. It's not that they don't understand what made the original great, they understand perfectly, and they remove those things because they're risky, because they don't fit the modern content strategy, because they're harder to merchandise, harder to meme, harder to mass sell. That's the business model. Give you something familiar enough to recognize, safe enough not to offend, and bland enough to mass export. That's what sells, not because it's good, but because it's good enough. So yeah, this formula works, financially, every time. But artistically, It's a graveyard of originality. And that's where we come in. Because if the problem is that we keep showing up, then the solution is just as simple. Stop giving them the numbers they need. Watch the original. Talk about why it mattered. Share the stories that meant something, even if they were weird, even if they were sad, even if they weren't family-friendly in the corporate sense. Because the only way to kill this trend is to starve it. Studios follow numbers, so give those numbers to the creators, rewriters, and weirdos who actually get it. What we need to remember is that Ohana didn't mean buying whatever remake hits the screen. It meant holding on to the stories that told us the truth, even when it hurt.